Be still and listen. Be still and understand. And be still and whatever you can handle, give it to God.
Welcome to the Council of Dudes podcast. I'm your host, Vinny Brusco. I am a father, a husband, the founder of Agora Social Club, a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a certified life coach, and a facilitator of the Council of Dudes men's group. This podcast is here to help you tap into and follow your golden thread, that feeling that pulls you forward to become the best version of yourself. If you're someone who's into personal development and self-help and is looking to live a life of more alignment, then this is the podcast for you. Subscribe to the channel, click the notification button, and follow along on the journey of the show.
Hey, this is G. They call me Santana from the Dash Group Chat Podcast. Make sure you check me out at the Dash Group Chat Podcast, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Peace to everyone.
And here we go.
Welcome, man.
Well, none of that shit comes out.
No, we're going to edit around all that shit.
Please.
All the nonsense. The bullshit of parenting.
The bullshit of parenting, man.
The best and the worst. Dude, thank you so much for schlepping all the way out here.
Man, listen, it's an honor, man. I'm going to tell you what you told me. That's where I'm going to start. This definitely feels like a vibe in here. It feels cozy. It definitely feels like a safe space to be in, man.
Thank you.
I love it. I'm proud of you. And I'm getting some ideas right now as well from here. I'm definitely taking home, man. But thank you so much for having me in the podcast, man.
I feel like when we wrapped up last time on your podcast, it was like, I feel like we could have kept on going.
Definitely.
There was a flow, and again, the atmosphere is conducive to that type of space of conversation. Yeah. And when we wrapped up, it was like, oh, we can keep on going. Like, the conversation seemingly could just continue going, which I think is one of the beauties of connecting with someone who's in the similar space that you are, and then also speaks the same language that you do. And whether it be with parenting or whether it be with just their own endeavors, right? To be in alignment with someone and to find someone who, I mean, we just met through social media,
I was just
right?
about to say, yeah.
And then when you walk in this door, it's a pound, and it's like this embrace, like the energy that it's exchanged in that pound is like, oh, all right, it's a brotherhood.
It's like a brotherhood. I was just about to say, we just met, like you just said, right? And just because we're going through similar things in life, we're parents, similar age groups somewhat, right? We could definitely continually have that conversation outside of the podcast. And that's the beauty of connecting with somebody that's going through similar things as you. And you grow through that conversation. We just had a conversation previous to the starting to record, and I just got some insight on how to deal with certain things.
Sure.
And like I said, we just met, but even those insights from somebody that even initially in the pound, as soon as I came in, gave me some comfort. So I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're obviously doing the podcast, you're doing the dad thing, you're living the life, right? You're living the life that you speak on, which is so important as well. What brought you to this version of yourself? Because we touched on it a little bit when I came on your podcast, but what was your journey to where you are now?
I think it all unfolded once I became a parent. It's been an amazing journey. I have an 11-year-old, an 8-year-old. She's about to be 9. They're amazing kids, 2 girls. I'm a girl dad. But this version of myself would have never been if it wasn't for them. I feel like I'm much more mature. As parents, you never stop learning, really. You always continuously learn about yourself, learn about your past, and how to deal with your future when it comes to your kids. But what I've learned is one thing that has been on my mind for quite some time right now is there's always going to be challenges. But being a parent has taught me how to stay still in those challenges and how to connect with God more in those challenges. So again, it all started once I became a parent. Before I was a parent, life was life. It was good. I had my wife. She was my girlfriend, my wife for a little bit of time, and then we became parents. But it was just different. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't trade this life that I'm in right now with all the struggles that have been in place, being there as a parent for my daughters, being there for my wife, and just growing as a man and knowing that challenges will come, but you could face them. But again, one thing that I've learned is to be still. Be still and learn.
So
it's hard.
Oh, it's
super hard to stay still.
It's
The first thing you do is panic when trouble comes.
Yeah.
The first thing you do is panic when situations come up that you never handled before. But, you know, the word still comes about in my mind, and I've been reading the Bible too. Since you said it, I started reading kind of like the Bible more as well in my podcast. The word still is there a couple of times when you have to kind of like take control of a situation. You got to let go and let God, and that's real. You know, challenges will come and go. I was just talking to my wife the other day about our parenting, how much we love each other, how much we love how we show up as parents, you know, but, you know, we're dealing with situations like every other parent, but their grandparents, my parents, her parents are dealing with those same situations with their grandkids. That just shows me that what my parents told me early on, you know, kids, when they're babies, they're baby issues. When they're toddlers, there's toddler issues.
Yeah.
When they become adults, there's still adult issues.
Yeah.
No matter what, learning to be still and learning to kind of like tune into the issue, making sure that you're there, you're present, and you could handle what you could handle, and you have to let go of what you have to let go, has taught me a lot about myself.
When you say stillness, what are you referring to? What is the actual, like, how is that actually enacted on?
It's because, so issues come, you want to handle them as parents, right? I'm just talking about the parents.
Sure.
You want to handle them. You want to take care of them. You have the solution. And those things may not be the right solutions for the issues that you're facing as a parent.
And what's kind of, sorry to jump in here,
Right.
but it's funny because it may not be for that child, but for the next child, it might be, right? Like
Right.
having two different children. And I think Gabor Mate says it, like your kids have different parents, right? Like, because you have a different relationship with each one of your kids, right? So one solution for one child may not work for the other one.
Right.
But continue.
100%. So, and you hit it in the head because, you know, they're different. It's two different kids.
Yeah.
Different situations, but you learning how to be still and knowing that and channeling your issues to God. You know, when problems come, you feel like super dad. Or I want to say I feel like super dad. I can handle everything. There's certain challenges that'll come that you can't control. There's certain issues that'll come that you probably have to be still in those storms and let God handle it, and he'll walk you through it.
So when you say be still, you doing nothing, or are you just showing up in a different way?
No, be still and listen. Be still and understand, and be still and whatever you can handle, give it to God. That's what I'm saying. Like, give it to God and he'll walk with you through that. And at the end of it, you'll look back on it and say, wow, we've been through that. But my faith in God has gotten a lot stronger. My parenting skills have gotten a lot stronger. So there's a lesson learned through being still.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lesson learned through being present, still learning. You're there 100%. You're trying to handle it. It's not like you're not doing anything, but you know, you're just making sure that you understand that there's God has bigger plans.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't mean to get all religious.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful stuff. Yeah, as dads and as men in general, we definitely look to resolve the problem. We try to fix the thing. It's innate in us. I think and then when you become a father or a dad, because not everybody's a dad, but anybody could be a father.
There you go.
When you become a dad, it like heightens in this crazy protective way, and you need to kind of keep that in reserve and be able to allocate your energy towards things that are going to be seemingly on the surface level less productive,
Right.
but in the long run more productive. And one thing that I've learned, even with my wife, is, you know, asking them what do they need, right? And I've implemented this. I've spoken about this before, but it's like, what do you need right now? Do you need me to listen, or do you need my advice, right? What do you need? And more times than not, it's just to listen. But we want to be like, I'm going to fix this shit for you. So before you were able to discover that version of stillness, how did you handle things prior? Like, how were you taught to handle things?
society. Society tells you you're a man. You're supposed to know things. You're supposed to handle things. You immediately go to, oh, I got this. And a lot of times in different situations, you probably don't. So, that's where I kind of like, being a parent is, it's an enormous task. I have two girls. You have a girl and
Girl and boy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't have a boy. I'm a gentle parent. I'm a gentle, strong parent. Let's say that, right?
Yeah.
It's challenging because, I'm gonna go back to society telling you how to handle certain things even before you're a parent, as a man, as a boy, men this, men that. When you become a parent, you're taking everything that you've learned and you're applying it to your parenting. I believe we spoke on it on my podcast where, a lot of us go through different things that people don't even know. We're dealing with a lot in the back end that others don't know, even our friends, even us opening up. We just met. I've opened up with you more than my friends.
Right.
That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, I get it. Thank you.
So it's, and we just met, but it's just because of the similarities that we've shared. Maybe you could share some insight on what I'm going through.
Sure.
And that's what we need, man. We need more community, but I think, I lost track of the question you asked, but
I was talking about how did you handle things prior to the stillness, and like what was your approach to
I
it?
think recklessly. I think arrogantly. I think yeah, I got this. But you're taught to be humble.
So what humble? Because you were
dealing with situations you can't handle.
You were in the military.
Yes.
So did that humble you, or did that feed more into that egoic bravado that a man should have? Because it's seemingly like you go in one way and you come out another, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
And the military is something of that caliber. I can't imagine even signing up for something like that.
Right.
But that would seemingly humble you. Did that humble you, or did that feed into more of that piss and vinegar bravado that I spoke about?
It fed into the piss and vinegar, but it numbed me in the military. It created a different version of me. I joined the military right before 9/11. I felt heroic right after 9/11. Got kicked out of college. So it's kind of like everything aligned properly. I didn't want to go back to working a regular job, but it kind of like created this tunnel vision version of myself, and it numbed me to the point where, this is the way I'm gonna handle things now. This is the way, because, I've dealt with bullying before.
Sure.
I wouldn't deal with that again after the military.
Sure.
So there's some good that comes with it. You build this character of yourself about learning how to deal with situations, not in a physical or, not in a violent way, but it's
in a presence.
In a presence, you just feel more, what's the word I'm looking for? You
confident?
Yes, you feel more confident.
Okay.
You feel more confident in dealing with situations, but it also can numb you to the point where, let's say I went to Afghanistan, shit's going on all around me, and I'm just there like, oh, this shit is regular. You see what I'm saying? Like, my mom would call me and tell me, what is that? I'm like, bullet, gunshots. And for me, it'd be regular. For her, there'd be some worrying involved, right? I think it numbed me too much.
How long did it take you for you to become numb to it?
Basic training did it for me. It says basic training. So, and I'm not saying anything bad about the military. I loved my time in the military.
Do you think everybody should serve in the military?
No, not everybody. It depends on the mental capacity that you have. As it could turn left real quick. It depends on your upbringing. I'm just speaking for myself.
Yeah, of course.
Right. For those of you who joining, best
hats off to you. Absolutely.
Hats off to you.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate, I'm proud of you, and, keep serving our country, of course.
Yeah.
But, a lot of people, when I was in there, a lot of people joined the military because that was their only option. A lot of people joined the military because their parents did it. A lot of people joined the military because, they had no other way. It was either that or no job or the streets or whatever, right? Be careful with that. I very rarely did I see someone join the military because they felt proud to do it.
That's a big thing, though, right? You're absolutely right. And you do hear that story more so than you do, I wanted to serve my country. And the only people that you do get, seemingly, I don't know this, but I would imagine the people that you do get the I want to serve my country from are the ones whose fathers or grandfathers served.
Right.
And then you wonder how much of that is rooted in just wanting to make them proud more so than your own intrinsic, truthful way of, I want to serve my country. It's just ingrained in you.
Right. And you know what's funny about what you just said? You know, I didn't get that I'm proud of you, son, till after I joined the military from my dad.
Wow.
That was what I was yearning. I was yearning that.
We have guys like, fuck this, I'm out. Or not.
No, so, you know.
Or did that push you to go more?
No, so it's funny because the situation came about. I got kicked out of college. I'm not going to lie about that. Then, and I finished college afterwards. So, you know, just to debunk that. But I got kicked out of college. I had nowhere to go. It was either like a McDonald's job, you know, or whatever it was, or serving. And I had some cousins in there. And I told my dad, and I was like, listen, what if I get killed? And he said, you could get killed out here. Might as well do something.
Sure, but there's a much higher.
But see, here's the thing. In the neighborhoods that I was in,
Yeah.
I could have gotten killed out here, to be honest. And it's not like I was a bad kid. It was just the environment that I was in.
Sure, yeah.
So it was like, something could happen. Basically, that's kind of like the conversation was. Something could happen to you out here. Do something honorable instead. So that's how I went in. And then when I went in, and once I got out of basic training, I had my own place. The first visit that my parents gave me or came to me in Virginia, that's when my dad told me that. And I guess at that moment, I cried with him. I hugged him. And I felt like at that moment, I didn't realize it because I was like 20. I'm realizing it now after the fact that, wow, I needed that at that moment from my dad. I hadn't heard that in a while from my dad. And just to hear that as a boy, hearing it from your dad, I'm proud of you, means a lot. But back to our point about people joining the military, even let's say you said somebody who has had a grandparent or a dad in the military and they're doing it just to make them proud. I honestly don't think that's a good way to join either.
Yeah, I agree.
See what I'm saying? Because on the flip side of that, there could be some nepotism there. There could be some higher ranks, grandfathers and dads.
Sure.
And you feel like you have some leeway into getting things the way you want just because your dad is a colonel.
Got it.
Or a sergeant or whatever, right? Be mindful of that. That's all I'm saying. You know, the military was a great experience. Would I let my daughters join? It's not up to me. It's up to them. I always tell my wife, hey, you know, it built up my confidence to be who I am today. But you can't control once kids turn 18, they do whatever they
see what they're going to do.
Right. They're going to do what they're going to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to the still or the numbness that you felt after basic, right? So you go in and what transpires that numbs you? Is it just like, I mean, you see it in the movies and you hear about it, like the breaking down of you as a person, right? And then building you back up to this seemingly mindless machine, like to some degree, right? With all due respect. And there is a necessity to do that because you are going in extreme, beyond imaginable circumstances that your mind needs to be of that mindset. Like, this is how I'm handling this. And there's blinders and there's nothing else around you that can happen because you need to be so narrowly focused and zoned in. But at the same time, you're not handling all the outside noise that is having an impact on your psyche. So what was that transition like mentally in that shift? Like, do you remember like being like, I'm a different person?
You hit it in the head because it's kind of like destroying the kid that joins and building a soldier in basic training. It's so much happening in basic training at all times, literally.
Like what's happening?
Training. 4 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, you're running, you're constantly, nobody's getting hurt. You're constantly like in top shape, by the way. Exercise, you're doing everything to be in top shape. But it's like that drilling sense of, no, you're going to become this person at the end of this. Not everyone is built for that. Not everyone comes out okay on the other side.
I don't know how I'd handle. I think I would like to think I would do well with that, but then there's the part of me that's like, I definitely would be like, fuck.
When you find yourself after the military, I found myself just zoning out a lot, zoning out in different.
To the same version of you that was in the military.
Right, I was already out.
But like the zoning out felt like you were still serving.
Right, zoning out, and it was.
What's it? Do you remember any particular examples of when you zoned out in something? You're like, what the fuck? Like,
No, I really don't. I just noticed, and this is later on in life. This is not right after the military. This is just later on in life. You start looking at different points in your life where certain things happen and you was just cold.
wow.
And I started going to therapy at a very late age, literally like 2 years ago, and started like to unpack. And when you start to unpack and look behind those blinds, it's scary. But that's where you start seeing every pattern that you've taken and every like misstep that you've taken or every like numbness that has happened. And you're like, oh shit, this is why I was emotional in the middle of Manhattan. This is why.
Had you done any work on yourself prior to the therapy?
No.
No meditation, no journaling, nothing.
Nothing.
You just dove into therapy.
I dove into therapy because it was like, I think I need to see. I told my wife, I cried and I told her, hey, I think I need to see someone. Because
What made you cry?
Nothing.
That's like the best cry.
Nothing made me cry. But I told my wife, I think I need therapy. I don't know.
That's a very bold move, especially to share that with your wife, with your experience. And then, right, that's a very serious amount of vulnerability.
Right.
So great job on that. That's amazing.
And a lot of people don't get to do that.
Yeah.
A lot of veterans don't get to do that.
Yeah.
And I wish we all did. It's unfortunate, but a lot of us are still stuck in that numbness. So you gotta push yourself, or in my experience, I have to kind of like push myself to say, hey, I need something else here. This manly bravado through life is not going to always work for me. I need some help. And I remember the day I told my wife, I believe our youngest hadn't been born yet. My firstborn was born already. And I told her, hey, tell my mother and sister the same thing. I was bawling. I was crying. I was like, I think I need therapy. And then, the process of finding a good therapist starts into play. You start looking at different therapists. You don't trust certain people. You feel like, this therapist doesn't work, that therapist. Now you got to search for a good therapist. And then once you find that good therapist, that's when everything unpacks in front of you. And everything has been unpacked in front of me. So now I believe because of therapy, it's helped me on my day-to-day. It's helped me become a better parent because I've already looked at that child inside him in the past and gave that child, myself, a hug. Gave myself in the military a pat in the back. It's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. But everybody's going through their own situation.
But you can only say that now because you are, right? Because you're out of the military, because you are safe, because you are home, right? But at that time, had you received that pat on the back from yourself or from anybody around you, right, while you're in the throes of the military, that might have weakened you, right? That might have given a little bit of that edge, a little bit of diluted water. And maybe that little bit of diluted water is what gets you killed, or that's what makes you not safe, right? Because I did a program, a buddy of mine I've spoken about before, Mikey Brackett. He's a therapist out in Colorado, and he has this program called Healing the Father Wound. And it's this real like reverse engineering of who you are now and going back into the different versions of yourself. And a big takeaway that I got amongst many was, and I'd like for you to speak on this from a military standpoint, there's a version of, or any standpoint, but there's a version of you that is essentially, the way I frame it, is frozen in time. Whether it be whatever age, 5, 10, 13, something happened, and you use big word trauma, small t trauma, whatever fucking word you want to use. Something happened to you that you are energetically frozen in time, and that has made you, or that has put you on a course to make decisions based off of that energetic freeze. And now you're showing up in a way throughout your entire life based off of these different experiences, and they happen every year, whatever it is.
Right.
And that's who's showing up, is this kind of collaboration of all these experiences, good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
And that's who you see in front of you today, who's speaking and all that stuff. So when you're able to go back essentially to that frozen self and give them what they needed, a hug, pat on the back, you're going to be okay. It almost breaks apart that energetic frequency that's frozen.
Right. It could do that. You could also say it in a different way, because that frozen version of yourself, I'm going to put myself in it.
Yeah.
That frozen version of myself is still there, even if I acknowledge it. And now I'm
In what way is it still there? Like you're still not making decisions now
No,
that
no.
alleviate that, or?
No, I'm making better decisions now than let's say that version of myself. But just because there was a version of yourself that was stuck, I feel horrible for myself. It's kind of like I feel like I don't forgive myself for it. So it's like, that's what I need to work at now. That's why therapy is a continuous thing. Just because I acknowledge it doesn't mean, okay, I acknowledge it. Okay, I gave it what it needed. Okay, now I can move on. No, it doesn't work that way. It's still there. Now it's like,
Well, it's a part of you.
it's definitely a part of me. It kind of like helped me become, the whole process helped me become who I am today. Acknowledging it as well helped me become who I am today.
Of course.
But just because that version of yourself was stuck there, now you're trying to get over the feeling bad for yourself because that version of yourself was stuck there. So it's always there, no matter what. No matter if it, like I told you, no matter if you gave it what it needed at that point, just acknowledging that version of yourself, and it's the whole thing is, it's not only one thing. It's like a billion. It's like a million things. So now I'm acknowledging a million things, but now, why were they there? What did I need then? Okay, now I gave it what it needed. But just because that version of yourself went through that in your life, you start feeling horrible for other people that are, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're like, wow. Yeah. And you know what's crazy?
Well, I think you get to feel empathetic, right? Like that's the beauty of it. Like you feel horrible, but you could also take that and you could say like, this is an opportunity to recognize the humanistic, or God recognizes God, right? The
Right.
humanistic experience that we all have.
Right.
And it levels the playing field, so to speak.
Right. It does level the playing field. You know, it's tough, man, because like I said, when you start looking back and you start looking at everything, it's difficult to sit there and say, okay, I'm acknowledging all of them at the same time. You know, sometimes I don't want to, even today. Let's say something could happen today to me that channels that frozen version of myself. Yeah. And now
that's the real work though.
But now I'm frozen in this time frame. And I can't shake this version of myself today because I let that version of myself play out for years.
Well, it's showing up now.
It's showing up. Right. But because that past version of yourself is stuck there, and you know it was stuck for X amount of time, you're scared that this version of yourself is going to be stuck regardless if you have the tools or not. So
yeah, it's like a calcified image of your mind.
It's difficult because you get tired.
Yeah.
You get exhausted, man. And then life.
Yeah. And add on everything else.
And it's like, you know, society, you're a man, and I get it. Women go through things too. And
of course,
kudos to them. They probably go through a lot more than we do it. We're going through different things. Let's put it like that. But life is playing out in real time. And here I am trying to catch up with my past. And once I catch up with certain parts of my past while being in the present, some shit happens in the present that puts you right back where you was.
Yeah, and I think one of the most powerful things that you can do is learn how to recognize that energy and not only just not take action on whatever that is or not show up in the way that you used to, but alchemize the energy, right? Take the energy and transmute it into something that's productive, that's giving, that's, that's in service of others, because that's how you really do, transform that energy, because it's going to show up. And then it's like, okay, here it is. What do I do with it now? How do I manage this? How do I move forward accordingly without kind of dipping my toes back into old habits? Welcome to Agora Social Club, the Westchester's hub for guys to gather, connect, and unwind. In the last 6 years, I've been facilitating a men's group called the Council of Dudes. And within that 6 years, I realized that guys need a place
where they can get together, connect, and build community. A place that's not the gym, that's not jujitsu, that's not the bar, but a place where guys can come with no ego and grow and develop together. So here we have our chess table. We're going to be having monthly chess lessons and our take a book, leave a book library. Some of these I've read, some of these I haven't. Quantum physics to personal development to fiction. We also have our record player area. In the last few years, I've become very obsessed with jazz music. And if you don't know how to play vinyl, no big deal. It hooks up to your phone via Bluetooth. We have artwork from California to local artists. We have these small little work tables. So if you want to hang on the couch and get some work done, you can just come pop them open. And we also have our little workspace here with quotes from Muhammad Ali, Albert Einstein, Theodore Roosevelt. We also have our coffee bar, small fridge, and more quotes and artwork over the wall. Head on over to agorasocialclub.com, sign up for our free 7-day trial, and with that, you will get a key fob. Scan your key fob, and you have access to this space from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. So if you're a guy in the Westchester area and you're looking to gather, connect, and unwind with like-minded men, head on over to agorasocialclub.com.
100%. You know, you figure it out better, I guess, in that way. And that's where the stillness comes in.
Yeah.
Right? In our initial, as soon as we started the podcast, I started talking to you about just being still in the moment and realizing, feeling all your feelings, understanding that they're real, but understanding that this too shall pass. You know, my connection with God has never been stronger because I'm learning how to deal with certain situations by being still, recognizing what's in front of me, and doing what I can and letting God do the rest. There's not a lot you can do when things are happening at 1,000,000 miles an hour around you. You just have to be present.
Yeah, the thing that I struggle with for sure is the letting go and allowing the God part to take over.
Okay.
It's one of those things where like I think I need to white knuckle it, like we spoke about a little bit on the podcast, and I'm working on the same thing. I'm definitely working on the same thing of like allowing things to just be. And I was talking to a buddy of mine, and it was actually I heard it on a podcast also recently. It's like radical acceptance, right? Radically, unequivocally accepting your reality, accepting that this is the reality that you're interfacing with,
Right.
And that is a very hard thing to do.
It is.
How do you manage that when it comes up?
You know, you said white knuckling. When I say be still, I don't mean don't do nothing.
Right.
You should white knuckle it when it comes to your family, when it comes to yourself, whatever is showing up in your life. You should do the most that you can to kind of like fix the situation in front of you.
Right.
But also know that there's things that are out of your control.
For sure.
What my therapist tells me now is, you know, acknowledging your feelings, understanding that they're going to show up in your life in different ways, but letting it go, it's all part of the plan. You know, that's what I mean. You know, I get a lot of, I would say worrying thoughts, right? Anxiety thoughts out of nowhere. I may get like, I may feel like unsafe, but it's okay. I am safe. I know that I'm safe. This is just a feeling.
Right.
Let's move forward.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I think it's important to also change your foundation and the ground and the baseline emotion that you interface. Like I was talking to someone today actually, and he's like, my baseline emotion's anger, right? Like I wake up angry, I go to bed angry. And it's just a matter of like, how much anger are we going to hit today? Is it going to be a 10 or is it going to be a 5? And I get that because I feel like at this current juncture of my life or this season of my current life, I feel like my baseline is stress. I think I have I go to bed stressed, I wake up stressed. Like that is, and I do my best to down regulate right at night. I do my prayer. I wake up. I'm like, all right, I'm going to pray and I do my best to kind of offset that to the best of my ability. But there's definitely a baseline that is rooted in something that is healthy, because stress can be healthy, right? Anger can serve, right? But for the most part, too much of it is where it gets unhealthy.
It gets unhealthy. And you know, finding a balance through all of that. You know, you're gonna have your emotions.
Yeah.
That person that generally wakes up angry, it's serving him or her in some capacity.
Sure.
It's giving them what they need to start their day.
Right.
Even if it is anger.
Right.
Because we're allowed to feel our emotions.
Right.
But
how can you alchemize that anger? How can you alchemize the stress, right? And have it be in a place of like realizing what it is that because there's something else there that you're not interfacing with, right? There's an anger, there's something there that you're not interfacing with that is causing your baseline fundamental starting point and ending point to be stress, anger, depression, anxiety, whatever shows up for you.
You're probably suppressing all of that.
Yeah.
You're probably, just a general idea.
Yeah, of course.
You probably are not facing what you need to face at that moment. You have to face yourself.
Yeah.
However you wake up every day, however you feel. I spoke to you about this on our conversation on my pod, where I wake up and just sit still now for 5 minutes.
I think we said 2 last time.
2 with the light around. I'm like, yes, this is how I say to myself, it's kind of like a self-meditation. And I started this recently where regardless of how this day goes, I'm going to be okay. I do my prayer. I meditate. I set the tone. Sometimes I wake up angry. Sometimes I wake up sad. Sometimes it's happiness. Whatever it is, I set the tone. And we're going to live this day gracefully and the best way we can. So that for that person who generally is ignoring themselves, right? They have to look inward. You have to kind of like see what it is that, because nobody wants to wake up like that every day, right? Nobody wants to wake up in a bad mood. You have to look inward. There's something there that's kind of like you're not in tune with about yourself. And a lot of us, especially men specifically, we disregard a lot of our shit. We put it in the back burner when we should be facing it. Because the more you ignore it, the more it shows up in your parenting, in your marriage, the more these bad habits show up in your day-to-day. And it's all because you haven't turned the eye to look at yourself.
Yeah.
And internalize it. I'm not saying everybody needs therapy. Maybe therapy is not the way to go. I'm just saying, make sure you tune into yourself. Whether that be take some time off, go to a retreat, whatever it is.
Yeah, meditate, journal, sensory deprivation tech.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to focus on yourself to make yourself a better human and to better serve others on a day-to-day basis.
But, again, the thing that comes up for so many people, and you hear it all the time, is like, well, I don't have time, or that's selfish, or all of these, outside noise. It usually comes from people that aren't doing the work, right? Like no one who's doing the work is like, you cutting out time to meditate is really selfish. Like, no, they understand, right? There's an understanding amongst, and it goes back to like when you walked in, like
right.
the connection and the brotherhood and the camaraderie that's built in a very short period of time is because we do energetically understand each other, right? But when you are in the midst of it, you're working, you're doing, you're in the throes of life, it becomes seemingly significantly harder to show up for yourself and do these small things. It seems even more work to do. So to your point, the guy that's like, fuck this, I'm just going to blow through this stop sign that's telling me to slow down. And that's what happened to me, is that I was going 1,000,000 miles an hour. My body's like, slow down, slow down, slow down. And then I herniated a disc, right? And my body's like, okay, well, we'll slow you down. And I think that, the body's going to, the mind starts to make the noise, and you blow past that stop sign too many times, you're going to get T-boned.
You're definitely going to get T-boned. You have to. So here's the thing that, and I'm going to go back to my therapist, right? That she always tells me, like, you have to be selfish with yourself. And it's funny because now I tell that to my wife. Because my wife, now I look at her and she's like, I don't have time for this. I don't do this. You do this, you do the podcast, you find this, you find that to do. You're always like zoning out. Like I zone out in any given moment in the day, even just turning on the PlayStation or just putting on my headphones and the table when I eat. I'm tuning you out for 10 minutes at a time throughout the day. That's me focusing on me. I need to tune even the kids. Tune the kids out, tune my wife out, tune everything that's going out.
But see, the people get offended by that and get upset by it.
Well, I tell my wife now all the time, I'm not going to get offended by it. Do it. Go do spend time with yourself.
Yes.
Spend time with yourself. Go, don't worry about the kids. I got them. Don't worry about the dishes. I got it. Whatever it is, right? Don't worry. It's like a constant worry. And it's funny because before I knew about being selfish about myself, we used to be telling each other all the time, we don't have time for shit. We don't have time for anything. Sorry, I'm cursing. We don't have time to do anything. And we always go back and forth. I started being selfish with myself a long time ago. I started being selfish a long time, as soon as I started taking therapy, of course. But I think everybody needs to be selfish to focus on themselves.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're just doing a disservice to yourself, and you're going to wake up in mood swings, and you're going to just continue to ignore everyday situations that are happening, and you don't know where it's coming from. All this anger, all this anguish, all this, worry. Focus on yourself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long. I'm not telling you to meditate for 10 hours. I'm not telling you to take a month off of work. I'm just telling you, start small. Start being selfish with your time. Start focusing on you. 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Go for a walk. I tell people all the time, I put my headphones on. I put that sound cancellation mode on, and I just walk through the neighborhood. I'm not listening to anything but birds and nature. That shit is so comforting. It's so soothing. And it's just the smallest thing. Just to walk around the block with my headphones on, noise cancellation on, not tuning everything out. Just listening to my thoughts, listening to myself, meditating, whatever I'm doing, but I'm going for a walk and it feels amazing.
Yeah, walking is fantastic. And yeah, I had this thought.
Some people use the gym. Some people use.
Yeah, I think using combinations of all of that's super powerful, right? It's all combinations and what's in service of you in that season of your life, because these things change and they evolve, and you can extrapolate the message and the data that you learned from one previous season and seemingly apply it to a new season, but expressing it in a totally different way.
Right.
And walking is so powerful. And it's funny, the other day I was at work and I was outside and I was watching because obviously it's spring and all the trees and everything kind of just doing its thing.
Right.
And I had this thought, I was like, wow, the only thing on this planet that knows what it's doing is nature.
Shit.
And
100%.
I was like, that's the only thing that knows what it's doing, because unequivocally, right? Without any hesitation, it just does what it does.
Yeah.
It doesn't worry about anything else. It just does what it does. Or whether that be a bird or a tree or a flower, whatever it is, it just does what it does.
Think about it, nature, right? Nature doesn't worry about time, day or night.
Right.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Doesn't worry about work or anything. You know?
Right.
We're having fun here. We're talking, and but it's true. When you live life like that, like nature,
Yeah.
like it was intended.
But how do you tap into that natural state of yourself? Like, what is that natural state, and then an expression of that natural state? Like, I know for guys like us, it's things like this, right? Like,
Right.
This is a very natural state to be in for guys like us, right? But how many people don't get a chance or fear the chance or fear the opportunity to step into a natural state of who they are?
Because they're afraid of the unknown. Us men in particular, we feel if we stop or if we slow down, we're not doing enough.
Yeah.
So, like you said, for me, podcasting feels amazing. I'm having conversations with people. You could be a business owner, you could be a real estate agent, you could be an artist, whatever. Let's get to the real conversation. Because I know you're not having this conversation and I'm not having this conversation outside of this. So just talking through things with somebody that's going through similar things helps.
Yeah.
So spaces like this definitely helps us men kind of like feel like, oh shit, we're all going through something, some form of fashion, some stresses. You have to be selfish and find that version of yourself that gives you that inner peace, whether it be small or big. So you have to. Once you figure that out, bro, you're not going back.
Yeah.
You stress less. There's always going to be stress. I'm not telling you that stress is just going to disappear. It's going to show up in different ways continuously throughout life, in your parenting, in your marriage, whatever. But now you have somewhat small tools that you could be like, you could revert to and say, you know what, let me do this for these amount, for an hour or something, just to tune back into myself. A lot, like you said, a lot of us don't even get an opportunity to experience the tuning in or just shutting everything out because we're so caught up in today's day society, everything that has going on. But find time for yourself, and you will, once you find that version of yourself that gives you peace, because nobody could give you better peace than yourself. Now your kids, unfortunately, you love them, but they're not going to give you the peace you need unless you find that inner peace for yourself.
And you're not going to give them the peace either.
And vice versa.
That's such a hard thing to accept as a parent, that to be like their home base, right? In some sense, for such a long period of time. But I mean, you're experiencing it, as am I, with our older kids. Like you start to see the impact of society that you can't be home base anymore. Yeah. There's nothing you can, and that scares me to a belief that, because you see the extreme versions of things that can happen with people, right? You see the that despair that comes up in people's lives. And as a father or as a dad and as a parent, that knowing, and you said it, like when they turn 18, it's kind of like, but it happens before that, right? It really does happen before that. And having a 10-year-old, I know your oldest is 11. Yeah. I see it now in the day to day. I see, not my 5-year-old, because he's still like, piss and vinegar, but like I see that. And as a parent, that is such a hard reality to face, that you are no longer home base for them.
Right. And think about it. When you was 11, when you was 10.
I don't have a lot of memories from that age, to be honest.
No, but think about
I don't.
That's the plus. That's the way I see it, right? I see it as a plus, because when I look at the challenges that my kids are going through, at some point in their lives, they're going to look back and say, I don't even remember that.
I said that to my daughter just the other day. I was like, trust me. I go, I know it doesn't sound like it. Right. And I go, right now, I know this is your world, and I'm with you with it. You're in the bubble. Right. I know it. But when you get to my age, 41 years old, this is not even going to be a blip. Now, here's the other part of it, though, and I know you were going to say the same, but it is planting a seed, right, which is exactly what we were talking about before, that energetic frequency that they are vibrating on in the future. It is going to plant a seed of how they show up in the future.
100%. Just like you said it, it's their bubble, it's their world. Right now, the today is everything for them. We didn't see beyond being that age when we were that age.
Sure.
So we also understand that this is a big roller coaster for them to kind of like,
and a different roller coaster,
and a totally different world as well. But as men, as fathers, as present fathers, we want to put out fires immediately. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes it's out of our control, right?
Shit burned.
And they're living in their bubble, and they're not looking at anything outside of that.
Yeah.
You're planting that seed for their future, and hopefully they grasp what you're trying to teach them. But, it's, picture this, they're going through their stuff. We're trying to show up. We haven't focused on ourselves as parents, as humans, as dads, as men in the world. We haven't really focused on us. We haven't found our inner peace. We haven't faced ourselves. How do you show up as a parent when you haven't even dealt with yourself?
Oh, hard.
So for all the parents out there, make sure you understand that, we're all new at this, right? Every parent is going through what they're going through at the moments that they're going through it. But, make sure that you're showing up as the best parent you can be for your child.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna look back, and they may not remember the moments, but they're gonna know.
They remember the energy.
They're gonna remember the energy.
They're gonna feel it, yeah.
And they're gonna remember what their dad did at that moment, what their mom did at that moment. That's gonna live with them forever. And that's what they're gonna take on and become parents to our grandkids. So that's what I'm getting to. Like, deal with you. Do the best parenting that you can. Know that you can't put out all fires, but you're planting seeds along the way for that future generation to grasp better tools than what you grasp as a child. Because we spoke about it on my pod where our parents, our grandparents, it was a different time. Times are changing. Our age group is accepting of that. We know that we need to pivot our parenting.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm getting to.
Yeah. It's definitely a different, it's the hardest waters to navigate for sure. And, I just know, I mean, and I feel as though I'm coming out of this stretch, but when I'm not doing the things for myself, I'm a different person.
Yeah.
I'm an entirely different human being. Right. And, it's very evident in everything that I'm doing, right? When you're not doing the work, the real work, not the social work, not the outside world work, but the real work,
Right.
and that does involve like physically moving, eating a certain way, having a practice of reflection or meditation or prayer. When I'm not doing that, it's a different thing. But I also do feel as though that is inevitable. Like that is a part of the seasons of life, that you're going to hit these ebbs and flows, right? You said the waves that are going to come.
Yeah.
And I just saw something on Instagram. It was like, it's just, you haven't learned the lesson of that season, right? And you're not implementing the things that you need to learn. So the last few weeks, I've been like, what do I need to learn in this? Like, what am I missing right now? And that's just, a multitude of things come up, right? It's just a million things come up. Like maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's this, maybe it's this. And it's like sifting through those waters to see like where the gold is. It's like, you're like, nope, that's all shit. Like, and that's rough, man. When you have to sift through your own bullshit and realize that like, and you're not even, I can only speak for myself, but I'm not even in a space where I'm showing up physically, right? So it's not even like I could be like, all right, well, at least I worked out and I feel good about that. It's like, I am a fucking blob right now eating a bagel, and that's okay though.
Okay.
But that has to, like, I need to be the blob eating the bagel to take the lesson out of the bagel and go, all right, we gotta, I just said to my wife, this is like, I woke up this morning and I went to a 5 a.m. CrossFit class.
Right.
I haven't done CrossFit in probably 7 years.
Wow.
And I was like, I told my wife, I was like, I have to go do this.
Right.
Like, if it's one and done, I just need to, I got to shift something here. And she's like, no, and she's like, I totally get it. Go. And when I came, it's like, I'm so proud of you. I was like, oh, that feels good to hear. Right. And that feels good to be in this space of moving my body early in the morning. Cool. But, there's lessons in those moments where it's deep and dark and uncomfortable.
I'm going to go right back to being still. Every season is going to bring challenges. If you're still and you're listening to the lesson that you need to, or obtaining the lesson from that season, you'll show up better in the next season. Right?
You have to.
You have.
I had this realization: the next version of you requires the next version of you.
Yeah.
It's like stupid, but it makes a lot of sense. Like it requires, in order to be that next version of you in this next season, it requires you to be that person now.
Right. 100%. 100%. And the flip side of that is, if you're not picking up the lessons that you need to learn in different seasons, now years have passed and you haven't learned anything about yourself, and you're showing up as a blob or
as a bagel eating lunatic.
You're showing up
Lots of carbs these days.
not in the way that you was intended to in the season that you're most needed.
Let me say it one more time.
So if you're not
That's powerful stuff. Right
if
there.
you're not picking up the lessons that you need to learn from each season, there's going to come a time where you're going to show up in a way that you wasn't intended to in the season that you're most needed. You have to, in my mind, stillness comes. Again, I'm sorry, I keep on mentioning stillness.
It's fine.
Stillness also requires you learning. For me, I have to see what is the lesson that is being taught for parenting, for marriage, for whatever it is. So I could pick up that lesson, because I know that this particular small lesson in this season may be something great for 10 seasons to come. But if I don't pick it up, if I don't learn it, if it keeps showing up in different, because it'll keep showing up in different ways, the same lesson in different ways. And it may seem more harmful because you're not picking up the tools or the jewels or the lessons that you need from the season that you need it. There's going to come a season where you're going to show up and you're not going to be prepared or ready for the season that you're most needed in, for your child, for your marriage. So I always tell my wife, and we appreciate each other more now than ever. We tell each other, wow, I appreciate the parent you've become. A year or two ago, it wasn't like this. I appreciate the husband. I appreciate the wife you've become. A year or two, it wasn't like this. But we've learned to learn and sit down and listen to and learn the lessons that we needed. We each go to therapy and stuff like that, but that's beyond the point. Whatever you need, these conversations that we're having now would have never came had we not faced ourselves in those other seasons. So now we're showing up as we're showing up as better parents in the time that we needed the most for our kids. So again, being still doesn't mean you're not doing anything. It just means learn. There's a lesson here. There's something that is being taught to you that you're ignoring, or that you may have been ignoring for years, that you need to learn. So I'm sorry, man. I don't mean to get all philosophical.
You're in the right place. Have you seen all the quotes on the wall behind me? You're in the right place to get philosophical. That is the point of this the name of it is the Agora, which is where the philosophers would meet in ancient Greece to talk about life. So this is exactly what this is for.
This space does give that energy, because if the energy's not right, we wouldn't be opening up, right? But again, us and our podcasting and all that, it gets busy, it gets hectic. When you sit back and look at what you've done or what you've created or the safe space that you created for others, you've learned lessons to get here.
Yeah.
And you knew that this space was needed. So kudos to you again, man. This space is beautiful.
Thank you.
Space gives off the safe space that we need to open up, because other like I told you, I haven't opened up with some friends that are 30 years plus. Opening up with a total stranger becomes a new thing.
Right.
But it's because we're in a safe space.
But it also is the realization of that on an internal level, because you could say that to me, and I thank you for I'm working in compliments. I've gotten much better. So thank you for that. I appreciate the kind words. But knowing that and I usually use the bubble test example, right? You could fill out that bubble. Right. And you could say that, I could say thank you, and I could recognize that, and I could fill out that bubble on the test and say, yes, I've learned lessons from building Agora. C, right? That's it. But unless I feel that intrinsically, and it goes back to that previous point, I think especially as men, it's something I struggle with in doing the men's groups and doing the work that I'm doing. It comes up more times than not, the feeling of doing enough. Right. It doesn't seem like I mentioned this in your podcast, if you asked me, I'm never doing enough. I'm always doing more. And there is something there that, I still need to interface with. There's something that I need to look back on and say, what are you trying to do here? Why do you always need to be doing? And I've had my theories and my thoughts and my feelings behind that. But I also do know that for me, and I was speaking to a mentor about this, doing is my relaxing. Right. Like none of this feels like work. Right. None of this feels like, oh, fuck, I got to go record a podcast today. Oh, fuck, I got to go work on some business stuff for Agora. And that's the alignment piece that we spoke about before. Right. When it's in true alignment, although it is seemingly work and it may seem like constantly doing, there is an alignment piece there that's, it's the old expression, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Right. But the reality is you work more. It just doesn't feel like work.
Right. It doesn't feel like work because you love what you're doing. Now, you mentioned something key just now. You're an overflower. You want to overdo it, right? Because you feel like you're not doing enough. Sure. Even the compliment I just gave you, it's kind of like, okay, I checked off that box. I circled in that bubble. Cool, let's move on.
Right.
It's not meant to hit you right now.
Right.
Later on, you're going to have a conversation.
I'll just be crying in the car.
Listen, later on, you're going to have a conversation on this podcast that's going to change somebody's life, because all the bubbles that have been filled out, because you're working in the overflow of just positivity and good energy. You're overdoing it. Somebody's life is going to change because of a conversation they've had with you. So that's the purpose. It's not even for yourself. It's for somebody else. Like, I always say the conversations I'm having it's always for somebody to get some jewels and change their lives. It's not even for me. I'm doing the work, God is using me now to kind of like do the work, and it may feel like fun and it's dope and it's exciting, and we have microphones and cameras and shit, and we've never done this, and we're in media, we're in YouTube, we're everywhere. It feels good, but it's not for us. These conversations are for somebody else. So somewhere along the line, all the filled out bubbles, when you step back and look back, you completed the entire test. Somewhere along the line, it's going to all align somewhere down the line and you're going to say to yourself, holy shit, there's a big picture here. I've helped out X amount of people just by having a conversation in this cool ass space. That's what I'm getting to.
Yeah, it's all about service.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, removing the ego from the service. Like, there's actually the part of the Bible I was reading today. I don't remember the exact quote, but like the whole section was about being of service to others.
Yeah.
And we definitely egoically get tied up in that, right? We get tied up in the downloads and the likes and the comments, and that does feel good, right?
Yeah.
As it should, right? It's a very big dopamine hit. But the reality is, being of service to others is seemingly, I think the Muhammad Ali quote is up there. It says, being of service to others is the rent you pay to be on this earth, or something like that.
Right.
And it is all about being of service to others, which is a hard and that it's not hard to understand. Like, it makes sense that would be like the work, but it gets your ego gets tied into that.
Right. 100%. No, listen, your ego's going to tie in some way, somehow. You're going to want the likes and the views and the accolades. But when it gets to the point where you don't care about that,
Right.
that's when it becomes beautiful. I don't care if a YouTube video hits 1,000 or 100. Somewhere there, somebody picked up something. That's where I'm at. So yeah, while in the beginning, and now I'm not gonna lie, you look at your views, you look at your status, you look at your status, you look at your insights and all that shit. It matters because you're trying to reach a broader audience. But when it doesn't matter, that's when it matters the most to somebody else. So, you know, I've had conversations. I'm pointing one out. This young lady was in my podcast, and she was speaking about an experience that she had passed through. She had went through, medically wise. You don't know how many people hit me in the DMs just because of that, just because of the conversation, telling me, wow, I'm going through that. Wow. In any other conversation, wow, that gentleman, that hit me hard. Where can I find out more about him? You know, it's just little things, tying people's lives into conversations and helping them through. That's what this is about, man. It's not even, I get it. We love the accolades. I'm not going to lie. I'm guilty too. But at some point, that high, those highs and lows, they shouldn't mean anything. When you get to that point when they really don't mean anything, you're free.
Yeah, I've mentioned it before, but it's the old, I use the reference of, would you do it for free?
Yeah.
Right? Would you do it without the accolades? Would you do it, would you pursue the endeavor without the end goal being the best result?
Right.
And if the answer is yes, then you're fine, right? It's when it becomes, I really wouldn't do this. I spoke about your podcast when the girl with the Roadcaster, which we're using today,
Yeah.
right? It's when that becomes the only barometer and the only scale that you're measuring,
Right.
that is fleeting, right? That is a very tough thing to constantly use as the motivation moving forward, financial
Right.
or whatever it is.
I'm pretty sure, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm pretty sure if you could do this for a living, and
That's the goal.
that are the goal. So
Right, of course.
I'm also good. Okay, cool. That is also the goal. It could be. I'm not saying not to focus on it.
Right.
You could also have that goal in mind and make it as successful as possible. But ultimately, what's for you is for you. God has already designed our lives.
Yeah.
He's using us today as tools to have these conversations. If it sparks and it grows, great. If it reaches the world, great. If it doesn't, it hit somebody. It reached somebody. It reached the people who it needed to reach.
It did what it was supposed to
It
do.
did what it's supposed to do. A big part of this, and it's difficult because I'm pretty sure you spent a lot of money here, and you already saw my space. I've spent a lot of money there. It's difficult to say, wow, I've spent this much money or this much energy for it to become nothing, right? But you can't view it that way. You got to view it as, this is what I'm doing now, but I also see that when it's time to let it go, you got to let it go. If it's not serving you, you got to let it go. That's big. It's a big conversation in therapy that I'm having now. Letting go, it's okay. Even if you love doing it, if you feel it in your heart that it's not serving you anymore, you're going to let it go. Right now, this is serving us because we feel the good energy and the great conversations that are happening in these spaces. If that ever stops, you have to pivot.
Yeah, pivoting's hard.
It is.
Pivoting's a real hard thing for anybody, right?
Right.
And that could be pivoting to a healthy thing, right? That could be pivoting to, you talked about your wife and pivoting her to being more selfish, right? It's the same thing. It's just expressed in like a different way, right? Like pivoting away from doing something that you love, like, it's not really, it's finding that version, that alignment piece, that feeling of that, I call it following the golden thread, right? We spoke about it a little bit on your podcast, but that feeling that pulls you towards the best version of yourself. And that is, that's something that society seemingly, I don't want to say it's like a nefarious plot that's in place, but it does feel like, although sometimes it does feel that way, it's something that society does frown upon, and it's countercultural. When you're doing the thing that is, not the norm, not the punching in, punching out, when you're showing up to the world in this really authentic way, it could be, moving to Bali and opening a CrossFit gym or whatever it is. When you step outside of that, this is the way the world works, or this is what a dad looks like, right? Like if you go back to when we were kids and you watch Family Matters or Full House and whatever it was, like dads didn't have sleeves and were wearing dunks. Like that wasn't a thing, right? Yep. So it's like society will deem what is acceptable, and then it's so countercultural to show up in a way that's authentic.
Right. But don't let society determine what's authentic to you or what's cool to you, or focus less on what's cool and just be authentic to yourself.
Right.
So yeah, I remember watching those shows as well. Right. And it's crazy because society has changed so much. Now we're like in a microwavable, I need it now. If you're not doing anything for me, cut ties, this and that. Listen, focus on what you can control. Do the best you can in the spaces you create for others, and don't worry about anything else. Society is going to continue to ramble on this like fast pace, and it's just getting faster and faster. Fast pace, give me a now situation. Like I put a podcast out. Sometimes I put a podcast out every 2 weeks. Sometimes I put out one a month. I'm still consistent. I'm not stopping. I'm showing up. It's all me. It's all
But the season of life
this is the season that I'm dealing with. I need to slow down, not stop, but slow down. I'm learning this. I need to put my focus and energy on other things. It's okay. But if you let society determine how fast you go or how much microwave information they need from you, you're going to go crazy, man. You can't let society determine that, because once you let society determine your pace, and then your family everyday life is just going and your life is just lifing, you're going to drive yourself crazy, man.
Yeah.
You're going to drive yourself crazy. So I found, I'm glad to say that this version of me has found pockets of stillness throughout this madness of life. So, and
what do those moments of stillness look like? What's coming up for you that you're able to experience those moments of stillness, that you're able, like, what's happening in the stillness? Is it just you zoning out and just being like,
no.
And does it feel like, not to stack the question, but does it feel like that same zoning out as it did in a time of war where it's an emotional zone out, or is it a present zone out?
Present zone out.
Yeah, there's a difference there.
There's a definite difference, because I've learned how to manage that version of myself, that stillness of myself in the past. I've known how to manage it better now. The stillness that I'm referring to now doesn't, it's not stress. It's not, you know, it doesn't concern worry. It's just whatever it is, man. I'm going to de-stress for the moment. I'm going to compose myself. I'm going to gather myself. I'm going to look into what am I really being taught here? What is the lesson being presented here? But not everybody gets an opportunity to do that. Luckily, I have. And regardless of anything that's going on around me, I'm going to be still and I'm going to focus on not going crazy myself or not turning into the still version that I used to be. And it's crazy because in therapy now, you're focusing on your past. But let's say you go to therapy in 10 years, you're focusing on your now. So in the future, I know in the future.
That's funny. Yeah,
in the
that's a good
future,
perspective.
A decade from now, I know that I'm going to be focusing on these times. What I want is for that version of myself in the future to know, me talking to myself in the future, to know that you've handled the situation that bothers you now the best way you could and better than the old version of yourself.
It's funny you say that. I actually literally had that thought a few days ago coming up the stairs in my basement. And I thought to myself, I just want to know that when I look back at this, I truly left everything on the table. Right.
There you go.
And although in this current moment, I question if I am, right, whether it be physically, mentally, spiritually, because I speaking for myself, and you let me know your thoughts on this. I'm like, again, it goes back to doing enough. It's like, am I just making an excuse? Is this just an excuse? Like, could you wake up at 4 a.m. more? Could you get out of bed? Could you? And that goes to the drilling that you experienced, right? Like up at 2, like there is no grace.
Right.
Period. Fucking period. That is it. There is no wavering from this. Right. And although I do think that is productive, I don't believe that's healthy.
It's not. I got into the military at an early age. So anything before that, I was a teenager, sort of, right? I was dealing with my teenage years. Put it a couple of, let's fast forward a little bit. Let's fast forward, let's say a 25-year-old, 30-year-old joins the military, right? And they're shocked by basic training. And that's all you focus on. Picture all the trauma that person brought into being in the military.
Right.
All the trauma that they've dealt with growing up. And then apply the military pressures of life. Because in the military, you're in basic training. You're kind of like killing off the old version of yourself and creating the
I do think that'd be helpful though for a lot of people. Like I feel like right now, if you threw me in, I don't want to say basic training, but if you threw me like at a boot camp version of like, and there are tons of them. There are like a ton of those types of men's retreats that you just get fucking broken down.
100%.
A part of me says like, I think I kind of need that.
A part of me at this age
Still needs that?
No, I would say in our age, like say, if we join the military now, oh, hell yeah, I would want to destroy myself and rebuild myself.
Right.
Because I've had enough life to live and understand and know and all that stuff. We're speaking from our knowledge standpoint.
Right.
But for the young person that has dealt with some sort of trauma, whether it be the parents or whatever life threw at them at that point, to then join the military, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, but you're also getting ahead of the ball.
Yeah, in a way. So it's still a plus, I would say. You're still... It's difficult, man. It depends. I'm not even going to lie to you. It depends on the version you showed up in.
Yeah.
That'll determine how you come out.
Right.
So, yeah, I'd rather join them.
And also, it also depends on the experience you have while you're in it.
100%.
Because you could arrive in a way that's seemingly healthy, and then go through some things that people couldn't even imagine. As you said on the phone, your mom like, oh, that's bullets. Like, those are gunshots. Yeah. That is the norm. That is the norm. That is no different than, think about when you're in these areas, wherever you are, and you hear an ambulance, you hear a fire truck, you hear a police car go by. You don't think twice. It's just like, okay, that's just part of the existence. You hear a car alarm go off. You don't think twice about it.
Yeah.
You know, if you live in a certain area, you heard a car alarm, you go to your window like, what the fuck's going on out there?
Yeah.
Right? If I hear a car alarm, it's like, I don't know, like, is that my car? No? All right, I'm going back to bed.
100%.
So that becomes the norm of your experience. So you take that same thing and now that's the norm of your experience. And then you go back out into the real world and everything is, I'm sure, everything's heightened.
It's shock. It's a shock. It's a shock. And then for those people who don't,
And you were in Afghanistan.
I went to Afghanistan, but for those people who never, I'm going to take therapy out of this, never really get in tune with themselves and understand what the process is, they live in this bubble of shock. You just zoned out all the time. How many veterans, I know a lot of veterans are probably dealing with a lot of shit right now because they never they never looked at themselves and understood themselves or understood their feelings or expressed their feelings because they were taught not to. That's another thing. The military suppresses that whole man stuff, that whole manly, you got to do this and that. That's also there in the military.
Were you this thinky when you were in the military? Were you this? Yeah.
No, not at all. I mean, my dad did the best he could when he me growing up. I have great, wonderful memories of my dad, stand-up guy, but the military is a whole other beast, bro. You're learning other things. You're learning, and it's a shock because here's the other thing. Maybe it's the times, right? Because I joined right before 9/11 and that time was like,
forget it.
Right? Some people may join the military and nothing may be going on and they may be, oh, I'm cruising. This shit was a piece of cake. Everybody's experience is different.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Everybody's experience is different. But when you take the traumas before the military, the traumas in the military, and then you never pay attention to them in the future, you're just zoning out.
And there's no support for you to even go out and seek help.
A lot of people don't even know that there's support to be sought. A lot of veterans. It's like
they just think it's normal.
They just think it's normal. They just think it's their day to day. Take the military out of it. Our parents, my dad, I asked him the other day, how did you deal with your stress? Because now I'm going through it.
Right.
Talk to me. How do you deal with it? Oh, no, I just work. I didn't pay attention to it. So in this age, at 60-something years old, he's still not facing himself. So when you decide to live in that bubble, some people are not even deciding. Some people just feel like it's reality. This is it.
But there is truth to that. There is truth to the idea of like, that's just like, and we kind of said it, like, that's just life. Like this is life. This is, this is living. This is life, right? But I think we also, as being entrepreneurs and philosophical thinkers, we now take that and go,
yeah, no.
I take that and go, yeah, it doesn't have to be though.
That's what I'm saying.
Right? It doesn't that doesn't have to be life. Like my dad's very much similar. We're like, love him to death. Great guy. But if you ask him, that's just it's work. Like he said to me the other day, well, so what are you doing? We're working. I was like, okay, we don't know about, he goes, not digging ditches. And I was like, yeah, sometimes I think I'd rather dig ditches. He's like, nah, I've done it. You don't want to dig ditches.
Right.
And I'm like, that's right. That's the thing right there. That's it right there. It's like, there's truth to that, but then there's also the thinking of like beyond that, and you're right. Like that's just some people's, that's where the bubble ends. It's like you get right to that brink and you go, okay. And maybe it's a taught thing. Maybe it's a cultural thing. Obviously we're in a zeitgeist, you and I, of men who talk about their shit, who handled shit, who interface with reality and perspectives and alternate realities and what if and why so and why not. And we question life versus then just taking on life for what it is.
We choose different patterns. Be careful, right? Because the way your grandparents showed up for your parents will end up being the way you show up for your kids. There were different times back then, right? Probably calmer times.
Right.
Shit, no credit cards, no debt, really like that.
Right.
Society wasn't as heightened as it is now, no social media. But times have changed. We know we have to show up different for our kids. We can't do
and for ourselves, more importantly.
And for ourselves. So when you said we choose to question it, we choose to not just let it be a cultural thing. That's big because we're acknowledging that there's change needed. we need to adapt. We need to show up different because it's a cycle. They just continue going. You know, the ignorant ways that I'm not talking about. Well, let's say it like this: the ignorant ways that grandparents showed up for their kids, which are our parents, showed up in our lives, and we thought it was normal. I can't do that with my kids. I can't do that at all. It's and it's a cultural thing too. I'm Dominican. Culturally, you know, it's different ways that cultures handle different things.
Sure.
But if I show up the way my dad tells me my grandfather showed up, I can't do that, man.
Yeah.
I choose not to because I know better. And I'm not saying it was wrong. However, that's the way they were taught.
Right.
But that's also the way society was. It was the norm. Let's stand out from the norm. Even in today, we know the norm right now is current times. This is the norms what we're living through. But we also know that there's a lot of pivoting that needs to be done. We need to pivot a few things in order to show up for our kids as better parents. So just be mindful. The way you show up for your kids, let it not be a reflection of the ways your grandparents showed up for your parents if there was any negativity there.
You mentioned God a bunch thus far throughout this conversation. And, you know, if we were doing this podcast 8 months ago, maybe even a year ago, I would probably refer to God as source, universe, the force, probably almost anything but God.
Okay.
Not that, you know, again, your version of God could be your version of God.
Yes.
But in that time, I've become more comfortable and more proud and more aligned in using the word God and saying God.
Right.
What is your journey with the Bible and with, because again, I know that's something that you are now embarking on as well.
Right.
What is your relationship and have you come to using the word God?
You know, God has always been present in my family. I used to go to church all the time with my parents. Never really paid attention, to be honest, as a kid. But I've learned that it's crazy because every challenge that comes up, now as this version of myself, I see that God has helped me throughout all of it. I wouldn't have seen this a couple of years ago. I knew God was real. I knew he existed. I knew that there was, you know, a higher being. I was born a Catholic, raised a Catholic, right? But this version of myself, like I know that I wouldn't have made it through certain points of my life without God being there, regardless if I believed in him wholeheartedly or not. So as I've grown, challenges get tougher. Now I have the challenges of being a parent and the challenges that my kids are having or our kids are having become our challenges, which sometimes can be like very difficult to manage. But had I not like known that everything with God would turn out okay, pray, meditate, there's a bigger purpose here, he's in control. Had I not had those tools, it would have been a different parent showing up now. So that's why I mentioned God throughout the podcast. I didn't mean to, but
No, I'm glad you did.
I am happy to say that regardless of what the challenge is, you know, I know that there's a lesson and I know that it'll pass. And it's because of my faith in God.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that being a parent, I've had this thought.
And I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
please,
sorry,
please,
Father.
please, please. No.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Teaching my kids about God at an early age, like really teaching them, not just taking them to church.
Yes.
Like really, like here's the Bible. Let's talk. Let's have that also has become a thing, and it's important for me.
Yeah, I think what that does for me, my daughter goes to religion, and then we have, not all the time, but we've had conversations afterwards, and she, is a thinky kid. And what it allows me to do is channel God in a way that is meant to be channeled, because they see it through this lens of purity and innocence. And it says in the Bible, like, reverting back to that childlike experience and wonder of the world is truly the way to live. Yeah. And I think that that's such a beautiful tie-in, in that I've had this thought, if I can, I hope I don't butcher this because I always fuck it up. If I can love myself the way God loves me and see myself the way my children see me, I then understand what it's all about, right? Because your children see you in this way of like, forget it, right?
Yeah.
And you love your children truly unconditionally, right? And if you realize that that's the relationship you have with God, this unconditional love, right? I had Dave Regina on the podcast, and he brought up this really good analogy that I loved. And he said, when you ask for something from God, it's already done. It's done. You've already asked for it. But if you keep on going back and you think about a little kid, if a kid on Monday says, hey, Dad, can we go to the park on Friday? And you go, yeah, let's go to the park. Absolutely. It comes to you on Tuesday. Hey, Dad, can we go to the park on Friday? You're like, yeah, dude, I told you yesterday, we're going to go to the park. And then he comes to you on Wednesday, right? By fucking Thursday, you're like, we're not going to the fucking park if you ask me again, dude. It's over. Stop fucking asking, right?
Time.
You got, right? You ask me tomorrow morning, we're not going. But that becomes and if you add that reality and that realization to, that's the relationship that you seemingly have, right? That's the relationship that you do have, right? But it starts as this you don't want to go to that. You don't want to lean into that. Yeah. But having children allows you to conceptualize that relationship. And when you brought up that analogy, that is a fucking great analogy.
Yeah. Let me take back what I said earlier. I don't apologize for mentioning God.
There you go. Beautiful.
Absolutely not. I love God, and God is definitely present in my life.
But as a cult, but you have to add, again, source, universe, the force, all these things. We replace the word God because, and I'm guilty of it. I'll be the first to say, like, I don't want to be a Jesus thumper. Like, I don't want to be this guy's like Jesus. Like, you meet those people, but I also do understand it. Yeah. I do it. Like, when I get like sensory deprivation, jujitsu, whatever it is, when I get really into something, as most of us do, we just want to tell people about it. We want to tell how great it is, right? And what better thing than spraying the word of love and kindness?
There you go. 100%. I also don't want to become a Jesus thumper either, like, like you said. Right. But just knowing that he is present in your life, and he's doing miracles unimaginable miracles that you've been praying for. And at some point everything aligns, and it was because of the prayer you asked. It's an amazing feeling just to know that there's a higher power in control that you could release to when you are at your most worried point in your life.
Yeah.
So to anybody that's going through challenges in life, seek from that man above, because you'll do amazing things, and it's not when you want them to happen. You'll do it at the right time.
Yeah. And that's the letting go piece, is that idea of allowing it to not be on your time, right? And being a human being in the human experience with Amazon Prime and our watches and all of these things. It's like, this has to happen because we're so restricted in our experience and in our capacity, right? We're so confined to now and time, and we have to record the podcast at 9, and you got to pick up your kids at this, and I got to go to the bank, and I got to get a haircut at 11 and drop off this, right? We're so confined by time, right? But on the long enough timeline, all of these things are seemingly irrelevant, and they're going to happen when they're supposed to happen. And you mentioned the miracles of life, and I call them, they call them coincidences, right? And then you level up and you call them serendipities. Right. I started calling them micro miracles.
Okay.
Right? Because that's how I had, like, you see these things happen, right?
Right.
And you have, it's surreal. It's out of, and I've mentioned this, when my children were born, mainly my daughter, because she was the first one, it was so out of body that if I've said this before, but if a director came on and was like scene and like you're like, okay, this makes more sense than what's actually happening. Right? I'm on a set and this is a movie, and okay, that makes more sense than the actual reality I'm experiencing. And when you have those micro miracles, those small little things that are like nods, they're amazing. They become a drug. You seek them, right? And that's where you can kind of go fucking crazy. He's like, is that a sign? Is that a sign? And that's where like the clock saying 11:11, and we start to again to give the reality of those experiences to anything because we seek it, right? Because we want it. But when they truly happen, they stand out and they're so different.
And listen, there's, you hit on something a little bit earlier. Look what society has done to us. We're here rushing God to give us miracles. And it's like you just said it, like when they do happen and it was not in your control, they just mean more.
Yeah.
And that's when you connect to him more. I remember when my firstborn, both of them was amazing. Of course, out of body experience. I mean, my wife was going through the pain and I was just going through the joy. It's like she gave birth. Did you have about my wife? And oh my God, But there's no love that I've ever felt in my life to when both of my daughters were born. Oh my God. And, that's when, you say to yourself, well, I used to say to myself before being a parent, I'm going to be a good parent. Nah, man, nothing. I'm not even close to the person that I thought I would be as a parent. I'm way above that because I am so deeply in love with just being there for my kids, and that's where all the protectiveness comes from. And you want to put out all the fires and stuff, but you just show up differently every day, and every day is a new task. And every day, pretty sure you go through anger and happiness and, shitstorms and all that stuff with your kids, but just enjoy it, man, because one day they're going to be 18 and they're going to have access to the outdoor. They're going to be like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah.
And they say the kids are lended, so enjoy them while they're young, enjoy them while while you have them. Make sure you give them all the tools, all the seeds that they need in life so they could become great adults as well. Yeah. Hopefully they will want to visit you.
Yeah.
You get older.
Yeah, that's the old expression, right? Like a true wealth is when your kids want to hang out with you when you get older.
I think mine's are.
Yeah.
I think mine's are. I think yours too.
Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you. And as are you. And I think a big part of it is just realizing that you want to be better at it, right? Because that alone says that you're doing great. And you're going to have your humanistic meltdowns and freakouts and get the fuck in the cars, right? Like you're going to have them, right? Like, and the perfect example, the other morning, my son wanted to bring a stuffed animal to school. And I was like, dude, you can't bring the stuffed animal. You can't bring the stuffed animal. You can bring in the car, but you can't bring it to school because he gets distracted. Like I gave him a watch one day. And of course, we get the call from the teacher. Like he's very distracted in school today because he had his watch on. I'm like, all right, don't bring him, send him to school. So I can't send him with shit. My daughter, I could send him with a fucking play set and she'd be fine. My son, you can't send him with anything. So I'm like, dude, you can't bring it into school. So he gets out of the car with it. And I'm like, now meanwhile, there's a line of parents dropping off their kid behind me, right? The lady who takes them out of the car is getting like, okay. And I'm like, I rolled down my window like, dude, you got to give it back to me. He's like, no. I'm like, if you bring that to school, you're in trouble when you get home. Not the line I wanted to use, but now we're desperate times, call for desperate times. He throws it through the window. I drive off, right? Not in a mean way, but he's like, all right, whatever. I drive off. And then like my wife calls me at the end of the day and she's like, oh, the security guard at school said that he had a rough time going to school and he was crying and blah, 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 blah. So I get home and I'm like, dude, I love you.
Yeah.
That is not how I want to send you. Like, and then I'm driving now to work and I'm like, now I have all the internal dialogue. Like, oh, fuck. Like I just sent my kid to school with like the energy of like, give me the talk. Like, and like, what harm is it? Right. And I get it from school and all. I understand it from a structural foundational standpoint. Right. But from my standpoint of like, but the kid have a fucking toy. Who cares? Right.
Yeah.
Then I'm now in my mind, I'm having that dialogue. I sent him to school in this energetic frequency that's not positive. It's not positive. What am I? And I go down the rat, and then Instagram's telling me what a shit parent I am. I'm like, fuck, man. Right. But that's, I fucked up. But and we spoke about your podcast, but when he came on, I was like, listen, dude, like I told you 5 times in the car. I didn't want to get to that point. I'm sorry, but I also need you to listen at number 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he gave me a big hug. He's like, dude, no, like he got it. Right. Or seemingly. Right. But that's hard, man.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because I told my mom the other day, I was like, I understand when you used to tell me, now I understand that's the alarm for the car. 10-minute alarm for me to put the meter, whatever. I told my mom the other day, now I understand when you used to say, wait till you have kids. And kids, you know, when she told me that, I'm like, what kids? What are you talking about? Like, you know, nobody really cares at that age. But that line, every time I go through something with my kids, that line, that one line that my parents told me will stay with me forever, dude.
Yeah.
And there's no way you could put that into your kids, like make it like seem like something real, because that's not what they're living.
Yeah.
Again, they're living in their world.
My grandfather used to say God Almighty Day all the time. And I never understood it. And now that I'm a parent and I'm living life, I was just like, God Almighty Day. Like I get what you're saying, Grandpa. Like I got it. Like finally got it, Grandpa. I finally understand what you meant by that. And it's hard, man. But I mean, I think, again, going back to the point of, I think showing, like realizing all of these things, having these conversations are what allow us to be better dads and allow us to be better men, better husbands, and show up for ourselves. And then through conversations like this, to your point, it allows others to go, oh shit, I'm not the only one going through this. I'm not the only one that feels like when I scream at my kids, I'm a piece of shit, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, and there's that's helpful, you know?
It is. It definitely is, man. Listen, we're just trying to be the best parents we can be.
Yeah.
You said it in my podcast. We're going to fuck up.
Yeah.
We're going to fuck up. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to show up. And every day is going to be different.
Yeah.
But we're going to tackle it and we're going to move forward, man.
Yeah. And let's just add this nod. And with the ability to bring God into our lives,
Yes.
it just takes a little bit of an edge off.
100%.
And the potential of a lot of edge. But again, that humanistic tendency to hold on to things, if we can let go of that, it allows things to just play out as they're gonna, right? And there is this control that we want to feel because we are human. But when you do realize it's like you're not in control of any of it, there is something very very light about that. It adds a light energy to it that
That's what
you know,
we're seeking.
yeah.
Seeking that light energy.
Yeah.
Or just letting it go.
Yeah.
And understanding that, okay, this is the moment. This is what it is. And we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, you know, parenting is tough. Life is tough, right? But we're moving through it. That's all I can say.
That's it. I don't know if we did a podcast or therapy.
I know, but this definitely felt like a therapy session. It's the vibes in here.
You ever see like the Instagram? Why do men start podcasts instead of going to therapy? This was it.
This is why.
This is why.
Because, you know, we need, you know, therapy shouldn't be the end all be all.
Yeah.
We should go to therapy. We should have men groups. We should have conversations. We should have parents groups. We should talk more. We should conversate. We should let go. We should like listen to what others are going through. It may help you.
It helps so much,
It
dude.
may help you.
We started a dad's group here, and it's so funny, man. Like, you know, people from different walks of life and ages, and whose kids are coming home from college, who kids are going to college, who has a 7-month-old, who has a 10-year-old, who has a 5-year-old, who's going through this with their wife, who's going through that with their kids. And what I've come to realize is that it all ties in. And that was what created this space, and that's what created the Council of Dudes is this connective fiber that goes throughout all of us.
Right.
And I do feel my obligation to bring the awareness to that fiber, and it allows other people to go, oh,
No. Okay, I'm not alone.
I'm not alone.
Hey, not now. I could breathe better just because of it.
Right.
Because you may not even know the person, but just to know that somebody else is going through the same things that you're going through helps you.
Yeah.
So it gives you that little piece of energy or tranquility that you needed at that moment. You could breathe and say, all right, now let me look for the solution.
Yeah.
Others are going through this too.
And they could offer you that insight and that perspective to the solution, right? And it may not be your solution, but you get a version of a solution that you can now seemingly implement into your situation. And maybe it resolves the problem, maybe it doesn't, but it's one step towards being better.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Dude, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, my
I know
brother.
you have to pick up kids. We all have
Yeah.
schedules and clocks to abide by. Where can people connect with you? Where can they check out the podcast? Where can they hear more?
Well, thank you for having me, first and foremost. This is a beautiful space. You can check me out at the Dad's Group Chat Podcast, and Instagram, TikTok, and the Dad's Group Chat Podcast on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. We have our latest episode with Vinny Brusco there as well. Come check us out, man. We're just talking, making sure that we bring awareness to the conversations that are needed to be had.
That's it.
That's all.
And you're doing amazing work, and
Thank you,
I'm
bro.
proud of you, and I really appreciate
Proud of
the
you.
camaraderie, and I'd love to have you come up or even join us on Zoom on one of the dads groups, because I know your experience, your insight, your perspective will serve so many people.
Yes.
So I appreciate that, and thank you again for coming on, man. I really
Thank you for
appreciate it.
having me, man. I appreciate you too.
This is tremendous.